Ever wonder what it's like to wake up as a heretic? Spoiler. It's not so different from waking up as any other miserable soul in this emperor-forsaken hive city. The alarm klaxon is blaring in my ears. My back still aches from another night on a rock-crete bunk. Luxury accommodation courtesy of the Departamento Munitorum. The air tastes of coolant leaks and yesterday's promethium fumes. The difference? Instead of muttering a half-hearted prayer to the God Emperor on Terra like my neighbors do, I whisper one to something far, far hungrier. I lie there in the dark, listening to the familiar thrum of machinery that never stops above and below. In the cramped hab unit around me, I can hear dozens of others stirring. Through the paper-thin plasteel wall, someone coughs up lungfuls of factory dust. A baby cries down the hall, a raspy, almost animal sound. Poor little one, probably already blessed with an extra vocal cord. These are the morning melodies of the underhive. For me, it's almost comforting. This hab block has been my home for years, a cramped stack of metal cubicles buried deep in the hive's belly. 8 of us share this one room, bunk beds 3 high, and a couple of floor mats for those who can't claim a bunk. Privacy? Forget it. We had a curtain once for a bit of modesty, but someone traded it for extra recaf rations months ago. The walls are stained with decades of sweat, soot, and mildew. If the lumen strips ever fully flickered on, not likely, you'd see the cockroaches lining up on the counter like they own the place. A busted pipe in the ceiling drips constantly in the corner, forming a little toxic puddle we jokingly call our indoor plumbing. It's squalid, sure, but it's home. Waking up to these familiar sounds and smells, the reek of unwashed bodies, machine oil, and mold, is strangely reassuring in its own awful way. I reach under my cot and my fingers find the smooth metal of my amulet. It's cool to the touch. In the gloom, I can't see it, but I know every line by heart. A twisted star with too many points, cradling an open, fanged maw. The cult's icon. With my thumb, I trace its edges and murmur, "Great Father, watch over me this day. Guide my hands in your work. Keep me hidden from the gaze of the false ones until we are ready to rise." The words spill out, soft and fervent. My voice is scratchy with sleep, or maybe from last night's chemicals in the air, but the devotion behind it is real. Funny thing is, I mean it. It might sound crazy to anyone else, but I felt things inside, whispers in my blood, gentle touches at the edges of my mind that convince me I'm heard. It's there even now, a gentle pressure at the base of my skull, like a phantom hand on my shoulder, reminding me I'm never alone. After my little prayer, I could swear I feel a tiny surge of warmth in my thoughts, a ripple of approval that isn't entirely mine. Perhaps the Great Father truly does hear. Perhaps it's just the comforting echo of my own belief. Either way, I smile in the darkness. Some might find the idea of an alien presence in their head horrifying. Me? I find it reassuring. I'm never alone in the cult. That's the point. My bunk creaks as I swing my legs over the side. My bare feet hit the cold floor grate, instantly damp from the ever-present leaking condensation. I do a quick stretch, wincing as something in my spine pops. Too many hours hunched over heavy machinery will do that. I'm not old, 30 by standard years, but manufacturum labor ages you fast. Rise and shine, I mutter, mostly to myself. Across the narrow aisle, old Marlowe groans awake on his bunk. He squints down at me with one eye, the other milky white and blind. Marlowe isn't one of us. His mind is too brittle for the truth. Just an aging fellow laborer who shares this hab with 7 of us. He calls me Kid. I call him Sir, to his face. We have an understanding. He's hacking up phlegm as he lights a hoe stick to start his day. Emperor knows where he found tobacco. Probably better I don't ask. I nod to him. Another beautiful day, eh, Marlowe? He snorts a humorless laugh and spits, waving the smoke away. If you say so, boy. I grin a little too widely. Careful, too much teeth can be unsettling. Keep the faith, old man, I reply, pulling on my boots. He just shakes his head. If only he knew which faith, I think wryly. Our other bunkmates are either still snoring or already trudging off to early shifts. The top bunk across from me is empty. Sarah, the sanitation worker, must have left before the first alarm to scrub out the sump pumps. Poor woman has an even nastier job than mine. The lower bunk beneath her is vacant too, but not because its owner woke up early. Craddock, the miner who slept there, well, he didn't come home last week, went out for second shift, and never returned. Maybe a pipe burst and cooked him with steam, or he got lost in a maintenance crawl and starved. We'll probably never know. Down here, people vanish so often the administratum doesn't even bother with names, just ticks a box for lost personnel. One more line in a ledger. We gave it a day, then divvied up what few belongings he left behind. I got a decent pair of socks out of it. The dead don't need socks. Grim? Sure, but that's hive life for you. And death is a constant in this place. Last year, a cargo elevator's brakes failed and sent 40 tons of ore and 24 workers, plummeting 50 levels in an eye blink. Splat. The incident report called it acceptable losses, and the overseers had the shaft running again by the next shift like nothing happened. There was also that time a toxic promethium leak in Underfoundry 9 wiped out an entire hab block as we slept. The gas alarms never even rang. Hundreds choked to death in their bunks. The next morning, management sent a cleanup crew, shoved the bodies into a recycler, and shipped in a fresh batch of laborers to fill the bunks by evening. Disposable lives, one after another. That's the Imperium's way. The hive chews us up daily and churns on without a hiccup. I pull on my work coveralls, stiff blue-gray fabric, stained with emperor knows what, machine oil, grease, a bit of blood maybe. The material is thick enough to hide any irregularities underneath. Not that I have many obvious ones. I'm one of the lucky later generation cultists who can pass for human on a good day. Just a hairless scalp and a somewhat elongated profile if you look real hard. A cap takes care of the bald head, and some soot smeared on my too pale skin gives me a healthier, grubby complexion. My eyes, well, they're a bit odd. Irises so light they're almost white. But in the dim underhive lighting, everyone's eyes look a little off so I don't stand out. Benefits of living in perpetual gloom. As I dress, I run through my mental checklist for hiding in plain sight. Amulet tucked under my coveralls. Check. Sleeves rolled down to the wrists. Check. Wouldn't want anyone to glimpse the small chitinous spur protruding from my left forearm. It's barely the size of a fingernail, could be mistaken for an old scar or weird mole, but better safe than sorry. Collar up to cover the tattoo behind my ear. Check. It's a simple black spiral design, a curled worm tail swallowing its own tail. To most folks, just underhive gang ink. To those who know, it's the mark of my gene sect. I got it during initiation. Hurt worse than the mining laser burn I took last year, but I wear it with pride. Before leaving, I give Marlowe a casual half salute. He's already sucking on his LO stick and staring blankly at the flickering lumen above. Poor old sod. Part of me sometimes wonders if I should have tried to bring him into the fold, give him the joy I have. But looking at his frail frame and hollow cheeks, nah. The Great Father's gifts might just shatter a man that worn down. Not everyone is strong enough to be reborn. Stepping out into the hallway, I'm immediately jostled by the flow of bodies. The corridor is only wide enough for maybe 3 people, shoulder to shoulder. And at this hour, it's a human tide. Hundreds of workers from my hab block all shuffling toward the elevators and transit rails, bleary-eyed and silent. The overhead lumens sputter and flicker, giving everything a strobe-like unreality. Someone's portable Vox unit is clipped to their belt, crackling out an old Officio Perfectus marching tune, tinny and distorted, supposed to instill loyalty and energy, but it mostly just sets my teeth on edge. A crackling Vox speaker high in the corner suddenly sputters to life as we shuffle forward. An annoyingly chipper voice blares through the corridor. "Attention, citizens! Productivity is purity. A busy worker is a blessed worker. Remember, idle hands invite heresy. Report any seditious activity to your overseer. The Emperor protects the dutiful." The message echoes off the hab walls. Most of us don't even look up. It's the same saccharine litany we hear every morning. I roll my eyes and keep moving. If toil was holiness, we'd all be living saints by now. The only thing this so-called emperor protects is his production quota. Up ahead, a young man clutches a tattered pamphlet in one hand and is reciting a prayer aloud as he walks. "And in his light we shall find salvation," and so on. Ugh. I sidestep to get around him. I'd rather not stride to work flanked by a one-man choir. I can't help but feel a twinge of pity for the fellow. He's desperate to find meaning, clinging to the litany of a distant, half-dead emperor who has never done a thing for him. They chant and bow and sweat for a god that never even notices. I know that futility well. I tried it long ago. When I was a child, I begged the Emperor every night to save my mum from the lung rot she caught working the chem vats. She died clutching a cheap Aquila pendant that never so much as glowed. The day the medici pried that talisman from her fingers to sterilize and reissue to the next patient, I realized the only thing the Emperor ever gave us was false hope. At least when I pray now, I feel something real answering. I quicken my pace to leave the muttering zealot behind. As I do, I sidestep a peddler pushing a cart of fried fungus bread and pass a peeling administratum poster on the wall that proclaims, "The Emperor is watching." Someone with a sense of humor has drawn a pair of cartoon eyes on it in drippy paint, making it look like the Emperor is suspiciously glancing side to side. I snort. Even in this pit, satire lives. We funnel into a wider thoroughfare where streams of workers from other hab blocks join the march. Shoulder to shoulder in the semi-dark, the mass of us shuffles through arched tunnels and makeshift bazaar stalls toward the transit station. The air here is heavier, sweat, machine oil, cheap narcotic smoke, all blending into the signature perfume of a hive morning. I can barely see a few dozen meters ahead before the view is lost in smog and shadows. I glance upward through a rare gap in the steel ceiling overhead. Far, far above, I can just make out the faint glimmer of the upper hive spires, shining with golden lights like some false firmament. Up there, the nobles are probably dining on real grox steak and amasect for breakfast, while we choke down nutrient slop. The sight would have filled me with fury once. Now it just steels my resolve. Enjoy it while you can, parasites. The Great Father will free us all soon, one way or another. I eventually reach the mag rail station, essentially a concrete ledge with train tracks running through a tunneled canyon. A battered sign identifies it as Sector 303 Trans Hub. Automated trams rattle by every few minutes, carrying workers deeper into the city or out toward the mine heads. I'm lucky today. My assigned post is fairly central, so I don't have to cling to the side of a speeding ore hauler or hang off a cargo drone. Just a nice, overcrowded tram ride with a few hundred of my closest, smelly friends. While we wait on the platform, I spot one of my brood brothers in the crowd. Not a literal sibling, of course. We cultists call each other brothers and sisters the way Imperials say comrade. It's Jathan, a tall, broad-shouldered man built from years of hauling plasteel plates. He looks like any other weary laborer, save that I know under his gloves his right hand bears an extra finger and a claw-like nail. He catches my eye and gives the slightest nod. I nod back. We don't dare speak here, but we've developed a silent language of gestures from our mining days. In the dim light, I see him brush his chin, then tap his temple twice. "Heard anything from father?" he's asking. I subtly scratch behind my ear where my tattoo is. "Not since last shift," he blinks slowly. "Understood." Then he tilts his head, baring his neck briefly. I spot a fresh bruised cut along his jugular. Emperor's blood that looks like a knife graze. I raise an eyebrow. He just mouths, "Later." Before I can press for more, the tram screeches in, the crowd surges, and we're crammed aboard. I lose sight of Jathan as I'm sandwiched between a group of off-shift scrappers and a pair of Mechanicus adepts, whose incense and machine oil odor mercifully masks the body odor around them. I grab an overhead strap as the carriage lurches forward. It's a good 20-minute ride to Factorum 17 where I'm assigned this rotation. Two scrapper types behind me converse in low whispers, thinking no one can hear. In the packed tram, their words reach my ears easily. "Heard Ulyss down on level 19 disappeared last night. Just gone," one mutters. "Emperor's Truth? That's the third this month. Think it's those sump ghosts grabbing people?" the other replies nervously. "Shh, Emperor's sake, keep it down, but yeah, something's prowling out there." They notice me glancing over and fall silent, suddenly very interested in their boots. I give them an innocent, disinterested look and turn away, chuckling internally. Sump ghosts. That's a new one. We do love our nicknames. Anything to avoid saying Genestealer Cult. The hive folk know something nasty is stalking the depths, but they don't know what. Ghosts, plague spirits, mutant gangs. Fine by me. The more clueless, the better. To occupy myself for the rest of the ride, I glance up at a flickering pict screen mounted near the tram's ceiling. It scrolls through the usual news and production quota updates. "Productivity down 2% in Sector 12. Unacceptable," says Sub-Governor Malchier. Sickness spreads in Lower Hive. Authorities blame unsanctioned gatherings. That last line makes me grin. Sickness, huh? We know what they mean. The powers that be are growing suspicious of why folks have been congregating at night, or why so many seem oddly fervent lately. They likely think it's some new chaos cult or underhive gang. Good. Let them chase phantoms. They have no idea what's truly breeding under their noses. Another bulletin flashes. "Remember, the Emperor's eye is on you. Report any unusual behavior." I scoff under my breath. If the Emperor's eye was really on this place, he'd have seen a hell of a lot of unusual behavior by now and sent the whole Inquisition. Lucky for us, the Emperor, praise be his deaf, blind, throne-bound carcass, isn't actually watching. The tram squeals to a halt at my stop. I squeeze my way out of the packed carriage with the horde of other gray-clad drones. We spill into a cavernous transit depot lit by dim amber lumens. Factorum 17 looms ahead, a sprawling complex of smokestacks, clanking conveyor belts, and rusted gantries. The din of machinery echoes even out here. Officially, the place manufactures mining equipment, drill heads, furnace parts, heavy plasma cutters. Unofficially, a fair number of those parts have been quietly disappearing out the back door each week, funneled into our cult's growing arsenal. Amazing what you can hide in shipments marked scrap for recycling. Last month, we slipped a dozen reclaimed autoguns and a crate of mining explosives into a waste freighter that accidentally got lost en route to the landfill. I swipe my ident card at the checkpoint gate. A skull-faced servitor jerks upright, its augmetic eye whirring as it scans my card and then my face. There's always that half-second pause that makes my heart pound. Some paranoid part of me worries one day these scanners will pick up on the difference in my DNA or the slight aberrations in my retina. But then a green light blinks and the half-dead guard croaks, "Access granted." I breathe again and step through. Our Magus has done a fine job slipping false credentials into the system and maybe giving the local security machine spirits a little psychic nudge. Minor anomalies like me slip by unnoticed. Inside, the heat hits me like a punch to the lungs. Open vats of molten metal simmer to my left, belching fumes. Sparks rain from an army of servo arms, welding hull plates in the distance. Heavy stamp presses go thoom, thoom, thoom somewhere below. It's like walking into the belly of a great iron beast. In a way, it is. The beast of imperial industry, chewing up human lives as fuel. A roar of noise envelops me as I move deeper in. Overhead, a servo skull courier flits along on tiny grav thrusters, trailing a ribbon of parchment with someone's work orders scrawled on it. Up on a mezzanine catwalk, I spot a cluster of tech priests and overseers observing the factory floor. Their crimson robes flutter in the hot updrafts, mechadendrite tentacles waving behind them. To those cogheads, we workers below are just another set of moving parts in the grand machine. I hurry to my assigned station on Assembly Line C. Today, my task is to align and bolt diamond-tooth blades onto drill heads, then pass them down the line. Sounds simple until you've done it 500 times in a shift next to a furnace. My station partner is absent, probably reassigned or dead, so it's just me at this post. With a clunk, the line jolts to life. Drills begin trundling down toward me on the conveyor. I grab the first piece and get to work with my wrench and alignment gauge. Twist, fasten, release. Twist, fasten, release. Time drags. After a couple hundred units, my arms throb from the endless repetitive motion. The acrid fumes from soldering and oiling have coated my throat. Every breath tastes like burning metal. My fingers, already blistered and cut from handling jagged steel edges, start going numb. I think I left a smear of my own blood on drill bit number 187, but who's counting? Sweat drips into my eyes, stinging like fire. Still, I keep at it. The trick to not going insane in this drudgery is to let your mind wander somewhere else. Some workers recite the litany of the forge under their breath to keep rhythm. Me? I fantasize. I daydream that I'm not here, that I'm somewhere above in the spires or beyond, looking down on this whole rotten operation ready to set it ablaze. I imagine dropping my tools and picking up a weapon, turning it on the faceless overseers that profit from our misery. I allow myself a tiny grin at the thought. Apparently, I was actually grinning because a sharp crack on the railing behind me snaps me back to reality. The shift overseer, a particularly vile piece of work named Supervisor Hald, has spotted my lapse. He strides over, shock baton in hand, his thin lips curling in a sneer. "What are you grinning at, worm?" he spits, eyeing me like I'm a bilge rat. I instantly wipe the expression off my face. "Nothing, sir, just glad to be of service to the Omnissiah and the Emperor, sir," I reply, monotone, not missing a beat as I continue bolting the current drill bit. If you sound too earnest, they suspect mockery. Too surly, and you get the baton. I aim for bland and obedient. Hald narrows his eyes. His augmetic left eye zooms and clicks as it focuses on me. For a nerve-wracking moment, I wonder if he sees something off. A stray scale on my skin, the odd look in my eyes, something. But then he just snorts. "Work faster," he snarls. "We'll see how glad you are when we meet quota early, and I report we can increase it next week." He barks a laugh at his own cruelty, gives the rail another whack for emphasis, and moves on down the line to terrorize someone else. I let out a slow breath, unclenching the fist I hadn't realized I'd made. Easy now. I resist the very strong urge to launch myself over this conveyor and drive my screwdriver into the base of Hall's skull. Instead, I recite some dull figures in my head to calm down. 500 units by lunch, 217 completed so far, blah blah. Focus on the count, not the anger. Across the line, I catch Jathan glancing my way. He saw the interaction and his jaw is set, his eyes glinting with the same barely restrained hate I feel. Patience, brother, I think to myself. Soon, Hald and his ilk will get what's coming. Suddenly, a rending screech of metal comes from a few stations over, followed by shouting and a scream. The conveyor shudders to a halt. An accident. Supervisor Hald and a couple of foremen rush toward the commotion. I take the opportunity to flex my cramped fingers and steal a look. A servo arm on Station F malfunctioned and dropped a red-hot plasteel ingot on someone's leg. Unlucky fellow is pinned under the heavy slab, howling in agony as molten splatter from the ingot burns his lower body. Even over the machinery noise, his screams are unnerving. A high animal keen. The whole line is stopped now, alarms pinging. Hald is yelling at a pair of tech adepts to lift the slab and shut down the errant servitor. He's less concerned about the injured man and more about the production delay, no doubt. The stench of charred flesh wafts over, sharp and oily. Most workers turn away or look on in pity, but no one steps forward to help without orders. That's how beaten down we are. I realize this distraction is a golden opportunity. Everyone's focused on the accident. Keeping my head down like I'm just resting, I sidle a meter to my left where an electrical control panel sits. Quickly, I pop it open with my flathead driver. Inside is a tangle of wires. I reach in and twist two particular cables together until I feel a tiny spark. That should overload the assembly line circuit in, about an hour. To anyone investigating, it'll look like the system overheated from strain. A random equipment failure. A little sabotage trick one of our specialist brothers taught me. I secure the panel just as folks start returning to their stations. They've dragged the poor, injured sod away on a stretcher. His leg looked like crushed meat. He was ghost pale from shock. Hald is still fuming, berating the tech adepts and threatening to dock everyone's pay to make up for lost time. What a saint! The line sputters back to motion, though slower now with one station down and everyone shaken. We work in tense silence for the next half hour. Finally, the klaxon sounds for midday break. Normally, we'd get a solid 15 to 20 minutes to choke down our rations. But Hald, of course, chooses to have it to make up for lost productivity. A collective groan murmurs through the line. I pull out my ration bar, a sticky block of corpse starch protein, and chomp into it at my post. It's stone cold, rubbery, and nearly flavorless, like chewing a piece of boot leather marinated in sump water. Officially, this delicacy is corpse starch nutrient supplement, worker grade. We just call it Corpse Bar. Not a nickname the overseers appreciate, but if the shoe fits, if folks truly knew what goes into these bars. Well, the name isn't metaphorical. Let's just say nothing and no one goes to waste in the Imperium. As I'm gnawing the bland paste, I can't help but fantasize about real food. Fresh meat, savory and hot. Emperor, I'm practically drooling. A stray thought from the back of my mind bubbles up, an image of tearing into a haunch of raw flesh. I get a sudden hint of amusement through the broodlink. It's like the patriarch heard that thought and gave an approving chuckle. Easy, great father, I think, amused. Soon enough, he's always hungry. Jathan wanders over under the guise of swapping out a dull cutter at the tool rack near my station. Under his breath, without looking directly at me, he mutters, "Ran into some rivals from the Sump Gang last night on my way home. They didn't like my face. Ah, that explains the slash on his neck." "You okay?" I whisper back, pretending to help him find a tool. He nods subtly. "Handled it, but might have drawn attention. Bodies left behind. Damn. Probably the local gang tried mugging him and got more than they bargained for when he fought back. He's tough, and if cornered, he might have let some inhuman strength slip." "Arbites?" I ask under my breath. "Maybe. They'll likely chalk it to gang warfare for now, but keep eyes open." "Always," I answer. He gives a minute nom. "And spread the word. Meeting tonight moved. We suspect spies sniffing around," he adds. I acknowledge with a quick scratch of my nose, our little code. Meeting details are best not spoken aloud, even here. That handled, Jathan grabs a fresh cutter and moves off just as the brake horn sounds again. Back to it. Right on cue, half the lights in our section sputter out and the conveyor grinds to a stop. I hide a grin. My little accident in the panel just paid off. A chorus of confused cursing rises as workers realize their machines are dead. Hald stomps around, yelling at tech adepts to get it fixed now. But I know there's no quick fix. That circuit is fried. With any luck, the whole sector might lose power for the rest of the day. After 15 futile minutes, the foremen concede. They announce that the shift is ending early due to technical faults. A rare cheer goes up from the tired laborers. "Don't celebrate too hard," Hald shouts, face red. "You'll be working double tomorrow to make up for this, you ingrates." Typical. But the prospect of even a few hours off is enough that no one lets his threat ruin the moment. We shuffle out of the Factorum gates in a more upbeat mood than we entered. Just as I'm leaving the gates to head toward the hab, I spot black armored figures moving in from a side corridor. Arbites. A patrol of 5 moving in formation, shotguns in hand, mauls on their belts, helmets faceless like sinister judges. Everyone coming out of the factory tenses up at the sight. The Adeptus Arbites usually don't bother with the likes of us, unless there's trouble. "All right, scum, form up," the lead arbitrator barks through his Vox grill. "Routine inspection. You, and you. Bag checks. The rest of you hold position." They point randomly into the crowd of workers. Unfortunately, one of those fingers aims square at me. Of course, I feel a spike of adrenaline, but I keep my expression to a suitably intimidated confusion. I shuffle over with the small group as ordered, trying to look like I'm just anxious not to be late getting home. My mind races. I'm not carrying anything overtly incriminating, I think. Let's see. Toolkit, oily rag, a personal cogitator slate with maintenance logs, forged but plausible. My amulet is under my coveralls, not in the bag. The tattoo on my neck is hidden by my collar. Should be fine, unless they do a full pat-down or have an Auspex scanner calibrated for xeno-DNA. My heart thumps painfully as an arbitrator shoves his gauntleted hands into my kit bag, rifling through. I force myself to stare at the ground submissively, radiating harmless peon. Inside, every muscle is coiled. If he finds something and yells, "Heretic!" I plan to slit his throat with the small utility knife in my boot before they can gun me down. Not a great outcome, but I'll take a quick death over interrogation in the Spire dungeons. Nearby, one of the other chosen workers, a wiry youth named Fell, panics. As an arbitrator reaches for his sack, Fell bolts like a startled rabbit. "Hey, stop!" the sergeant yells. In seconds, 2 officers tackle Fell to the deck. He shrieks in terror as they lay into him with shock mauls. Poor idiot likely had contraband LAO sticks or some stolen factory parts on him and thought he could run. The Arbites drag him off a few meters, beating him unconscious as an example. In the confusion, the arbitrator searching me finds nothing in my bag except grease-stained coveralls and tools. He tosses it back at me with a glare. My heart is still hammering, but I keep my eyes down and quickly back away as they focus on subduing Fell. I slip past the cordon while they're distracted. That could have gone far worse. I unclench my jaw only once I'm around the corner. If they'd dug a little deeper, if they'd lifted my sleeve or scanned my blood, I'd be on my way to some torture cell right now. But they didn't. The Great Father's hand guides us, I'm sure of it. As I make my way into the warren of tunnels that lead home, I hear Fell in the distance sobbing, "I'm loyal, I'm loyal," and the Arbites laughing cruelly. I shake my head and move on. Not my problem. Since I'm off early, thanks to sabotage, I have some time to kill before tonight's gathering. Heading straight to my hab so early might raise eyebrows. Instead, I detour through one of the side markets on mid-level. The market is a maze of narrow aisles lined with metal stalls and tarp-covered booths. Vendors hawk all manner of questionable goods: recycled machine parts, fungal liquor, habwares, homegrown IO. A butcher is loudly advertising fresh sump rat on a stick. I'll pass, thanks. My stomach growls as I pass by his grill, though. Emperor, that does smell better than corpse starch. I weave through the crowd. Hivers of all sorts bustle here, sweating workers, haggling shopkeepers, a couple of off-duty PDF soldiers flirting with a stall girl. Under the flicker of neon signs and glow globes, it almost feels alive and normal, despite the grime. On the corner, by a pile of scrap metal, a hunched figure rattles a tin cup for alms. His skin is covered in fish-like scales, and one arm ends in a twisted claw. A mutant beggar. People pass him pretending he doesn't exist, or spitting insults like filth under their breath. I pause and fish out the remainder of my corpse bar. I wasn't going to finish it anyway. I toss the protein chunk into his cup. The mutant startles, looking up with one milky eye. I nod and move on before he can say anything. The truth is, folks like him are exactly who our cult welcomes. The Imperium casts them out, hunts them, drives them into the shadows. We offer them a hand and a purpose. If he survives the coming chaos, perhaps he'll get to join the family too. I stroll past a stall cluttered with tin devotional trinkets. Little mass-produced icons of the Emperor and various saints glint under a weak lamp. I idly pick up a cheap Aquila pendant, the two-headed eagle, symbol of the Imperium. The sight of it makes my lip curl before I can stop myself. The vendor eyes me, hopeful. "Fine charm, that one," he says, not noticing my grimace. "Protects against the darkness by his light. Only 5 throne gelt." "Too rich for me, friend," I say lightly. I set the trinket back on the table, resisting the urge to turn it upside down. As I turn away, I spy something interesting a few stalls down. An old data slate on a cloth mat with the Imperial Aquila scratched off. It looks like a used administratum manual or something. Upon closer look, I realize it's a pamphlet or report of some kind. The title on its cracked screen reads, "On the threat of xenocults, know the signs." I glance around, no one is watching too closely, and I thumb the activator. Skimming, I see sketches of twisted hybrid creatures, warning signs like unusual behavior in the workforce and unsanctioned gatherings in sewer tunnels. This is literally an Inquisition pamphlet about cults like mine, likely outdated and circulating on the black market as a curiosity. If only the local enforcers would actually read it. But then, even if they did, they wouldn't believe it could happen on their watch. With a quiet chuckle, I set the slate down and continue on. As I wander, a rare, pleasant scent hits my nose. Grilled meat, actual meat. My feet, traitors, carry me toward it. I find a woman tending a makeshift grill over a chem-fueled flame. Sizzling on metal skewers are chunks of something that might be rat, might be dog-sized roaches, who cares? It's protein that didn't come from someone's recycled corpse for once. "How much?" I ask, already salivating. "2 geld a stick," she says, eyeing my coveralls, probably wondering if I can afford it. I fish 2 small coins from my pocket and hand them over. In return, she gives me a skewer of charred mystery meat. I bite in and sigh. It's stringy, overspiced to mask the gamminess, and possibly toxic. But Emperor above, it tastes like heaven right now. As I munch, I let my eyes drift closed a moment and savor the charred, greasy goodness. It brings back a memory, a recent one. About a month ago, after a particularly big score, our cell hijacked a guild food shipment meant for the Spire elite. Our cult held a secret feast in an abandoned substation. We dined like kings, real meat, real grain bread, even a bit of saccharine dessert paste. I remember looking around that night at my brethren by the glow of hissing lumen strips, seeing genuine joy on their faces. The children were giggling, chasing each other around barrels of stolen amasec like it was a festival. Even a couple of our pure strain kin were there on the periphery, purring in contentment like deadly alien cats. For a few hours, huddled in that stinking sewer tunnel, we were truly happy, more than any of us had been in years. I finish the last scrap of meat and lick the grease off my glove. It's little moments like that feast that remind me why I do all this. The hive gives us maybe 1 scrap of joy a year, if that. The cult gives us hope every single day, hope that all this suffering is leading somewhere meaningful. My belly pleasantly full for once, I decide to start heading toward tonight's meeting point. It's still a bit early, but I can take the long route to throw off any tails. With the Arbites sniffing around, we can't be too careful. I slip down a side alley, prying open a rusty hatch that leads into an old maintenance conduit. The hatch is marked Authorized Personnel Only, which in hive terms means perfect route for secret activities. Inside, I descend a nearly lightless shaft, climbing down rungs slick with slime. The air grows warm and humid as I go deeper. I'm nearing the mid-lower hive intersections where waste heat and sump gases build up. I flick on a small hand lamp with red light, less conspicuous, to avoid breaking my neck. At the bottom, I step into ankle-deep fluid. Fluid is a generous term. It's a reeking chemical sludge seeping from corroded pipes. Lovely. I slosh through it, following a winding service tunnel that should lead near our gathering site. As I walk, I feel a building sense of anticipation in my chest. It's partly mine. I'm excited for the meeting. But partly, I suspect, coming through the brood mind. Dozens of my kin will be converging, and our shared eagerness buzzes faintly in my skull. It's like a background hum at the edge of hearing, emotions that aren't entirely my own, flickering in and out. Hunger, joy, impatience, zeal, I catch little echoes of each. To me, it's comforting, like being enveloped in a chorus. That familiar psychic hum always reminds me of the first night I felt it, the night my old life ended and my new one began. It was 2 standard years ago. Back then, I was just another overworked nobody, slogging double shifts and cursing every god in the book for my rotten luck. No lofty purpose, no secret dreams, just aches, debts, and quiet desperation. One evening, I got assigned to a late maintenance detail deep in the mines beneath the hive. A tunnel collapse had cut power to some pumps, and they needed an expendable body to go reroute a cable through a half-flooded crawl shaft. Lucky me. So there I was, wading through waist-high chemical water in a pitch-black service duct, half a kilometer from the nearest living soul, cursing my foreman, the hive, and my life. That's when it found me. At first I noticed only a glint, like twin reflections in the dark ahead. Then I realized they were eyes. Before I could shout, something moved, fast and graceful, right on me. A nightmare made flesh, pale purple carapace, too many limbs, a maw of needle teeth. I knew of underhive monsters, muti-gators in the sumps, feral servitors gone rogue. But this was beyond that. This was a horror out of ancient legend. Later I'd learn its name, Genestealer. In that moment I only knew I was about to die. It knocked me onto the slimy tunnel floor with ease, a clawed hand pinning each of my shoulders. Its tail, it had a spined tail, coiled around my legs. I remember its hot breath on my face, drool dripping onto my cheek as it hissed. I was paralyzed with terror, expecting its jaws to rip out my throat. But that death blow didn't come. Instead, the creature cocked its grotesque head, almost studying me. Then, from its fanged maw, a long, segmented proboscis unfurled. Oh, throne, just remembering it makes my skin crawl, and jabbed into the side of my neck. White-hot pain, unlike anything I'd felt, exploded through me. I tried to scream, but only managed a strangled gurgle. My limbs convulsed under its iron grip, then suddenly went limp. A wave of euphoria surged through my veins, extinguishing the pain. Unbelievable warmth and bliss flooded every corner of my mind. My vision swam with new colors. I saw visions, swirling galaxies, swarms upon swarms of beautiful, terrible creatures drifting between the stars. In that moment, pinned in the muck by a xeno-monstrosity, I felt an overwhelming love for it wash over me. Utterly illogical, but undeniable. I loved this creature more than anything I'd ever loved before. Then I blacked out. When I woke, I was someplace else. A dimly lit maintenance alcove, by the look of it, repurposed as a makeshift infirmary. Strange silhouettes hovered around me. Groggy and confused, I tried to sit up, but strong hands gently restrained me. Human hands, I realized, though one had an extra thumb. A kindly older woman murmured soothingly as she applied a poultice to the wound on my neck. Her appearance would have made me recoil under other circumstances. She had a second set of smaller arms sprouting from her sides, and her eyes were eerily large and black. But in that moment, her presence was comforting. Kneeling next to me was a tall, robed man with a smooth, hairless head and unsettlingly piercing eyes. Magus Orlan, though I didn't know his name or title then. He smiled warmly as I started to panic and spoke in a calm, melodious voice. "Easy now, brother. You're safe. You're with friends." Even as he spoke, I realized I felt good. My neck should have been a blaze of pain, but it was more like a dull throb. More importantly, the terror I'd felt was just gone. In its place was an incredible sense of peace, like everything was right in the world. As Orlan spoke, an immense calm washed over me. In the back of my head, I sensed something new, like hundreds of warm voices humming a lullaby at the edge of hearing. It was the brood mind gently enfolding my thoughts, easing my fear. My racing heart slowed, my muscles relaxed one by one. Orlan explained gently that I'd been blessed by the Great Father, chosen to join a holy cause. I recall laughing weakly and saying, "What cause?" He simply said, "The cause that will save us all." As he spoke, I felt it. The truth of his words resonating inside me from that shared psychic chorus. It was overwhelming and beautiful. Part of me, some deeply conditioned part, knew I should be horrified. A rational voice buried in my mind screamed that I'd been infected by an alien. But that voice was drowned in a tidal wave of devotion and joy that hasn't left me since. Truth be told, I didn't have much of a life to lose anyway. No family, no prospects, just endless toil and loneliness. Surrendering to the Great Father's love didn't feel like losing anything at all. It felt like gaining the world. Later that night, once I'd recovered enough to walk, I found myself kneeling with a half-dozen other fresh converts in a circle on the concrete floor of a hidden chamber. Many were people I recognized from the Factorum or the Hab block, folks I never suspected of harboring any rebellious spark. Yet there we all were, brought together by fate. In the center of our gathering, just at the edge of the lamplight, loomed a massive shadow. Though I couldn't see him fully, I felt him, the patriarch, our great father, watching us with pride. Magus Orlan led us in the initiation rite. We spoke our oaths in unison, voices trembling with a mix of fear and exhilaration. We renounced the false emperor who had never done anything for us. We vowed our lives to the four-armed emperor, the true savior who had reached out to us in our despair. We pledged to prepare the way for the star children who would come from the sky to deliver us. One by one, Orlan came to each of us, anointing our foreheads with a smear of sacred ichor from a chalice. I suspect it held a few drops of the patriarch's own blood, diluted in some solution. Potent stuff. When my turn came, Orlan's clawed finger traced a symbol on my brow with that viscous fluid. It felt warm, almost alive. In that instant, a blaze of emotion surged through me. Love, belonging, purpose, so powerful that I broke into sobs even as I swore my oaths. I wept openly as I promised my life to the cult, because for the first time ever, I felt like my life actually mattered. I had a family, a real family, that wanted me. As the ceremony concluded, an older acolyte slipped a small metal pendant into my hands, the same twisted star icon I carry to this day. I clutched it like a lifeline. The scar on my neck from the Genestealer's kiss is still there too, just above my collarbone. I often find myself touching it absent-mindedly, a reminder of the moment I was reborn and given purpose. Some might say I traded one form of servitude to the Imperium for another, to the cult. But it's not servitude when it's freely given, when it feels right. It felt like coming home. From that night forward, I never once doubted where I belonged or what I had to do. So that's how a downtrodden nobody found faith in an alien god beneath the city. And I haven't looked back since. By the time I snap out of recollection, I've reached the entrance to tonight's meeting place. It's hidden in plain sight behind a corroded bulkhead door deep in a maintenance tunnel. I rap a certain rhythm and hit a concealed release lever. With a teeth-rattling screech, the heavy door grinds open just enough for me to slip through. I push it closed behind me. Inside is a large circular chamber that was once a pumping station or filtration hub. Now it's one of our sanctuaries. The place is lit by an eerie mix of candlelight and dim electric lamps wired to pilfered batteries. The rough stone walls and metal pipes are decorated with crude graffiti in red and white chalk, and in some cases dried blood. Spiral symbols, three-armed sigils, crude paintings of a haloed four-armed figure. An old tattered banner hangs from a broken catwalk overhead. On it, a charcoal rendering of the so-called four-armed emperor, our cult's chosen icon of worship. The moment I enter, a wave of warmth and belonging washes over me. Physically, there are braziers burning scrap wood, raising the temperature and casting dancing shadows. But more than that, it's the psychic atmosphere. The brood-mind connection amplifies when so many of us gather. My skin prickles, and the dull psychic buzz I felt earlier blooms into a pleasant symphony in my head. I'm home. Late, aren't we, brother? Comes a voice from my right. I turn to see Kesh, a stocky woman with a shaven head and a nasty bionic implant in place of her nose. Kesh is a firebrand and something of a coordinator for our cell. She folds her arms, mock stern. Blame the RB Tess, I reply quietly, careful not to be too loud. There are perhaps 50 or 60 of us here already, some deep in conversation, others murmuring prayers, but noise discipline is still a habit. Had to slip a tail after shift, they were poking around. Her eyes narrow. You were followed? No, I shook them off. Took the long way, doubled back twice. We're good, I assure. I clasp her forearm. But they're sniffing around generally. Our friend Jathan said they might suspect something. She nods, then tilts her head toward the center of the chamber. Magus already knows. I follow her gaze. In the middle of the room, elevated on an old pump platform, stands Magus Orlan. He cuts an imposing figure in this light, tall and slender in his threadbare purple robe, arms folded calmly. His skin is so pale it's almost luminescent, and in the gloom his large eyes have a faint golden shine. Around him are gathered a handful of our inner circle, cell leaders, a few of the more specialized hybrids. I recognize our Clamovus, communications expert, fiddling with his Vox set, and Biophagus Zico, our doctor chemist, who catches my eye and gives a nod. They seem to be mid-discussion. I keep a respectful distance, not interrupting. Instead, I take in the scene. It's always invigorating to see our brethren assembled like this. Here, a cluster of foremen from the Manufactorum, secret converts, whisper plans for tomorrow. They're a trio of second-generation hybrids, their inhuman features mostly hidden under cloaks, gently pass around a swaddled bundle. I realize it's a swaddled baby with tiny nubs of extra limbs, a newborn of the cult. The sight fills me with warmth, another precious one for the future. Children scamper underfoot, cult children, some of them obviously touched by the blood. A ridge of chitin here, a glowing gaze there. Others normal-looking. An older woman, one of our creche mothers, hushes them and hands out little bits of candied algae as treats to keep them occupied. The kids giggle and scurry to a corner to play quietly. Even in a secret revolutionary cult meeting, kids are kids. Against the far wall, half shrouded in shadow, I can make out the hulking shape of Gorv. Dear Emperor, Gorv is hard to miss. He stands nearly 8 feet tall, an aberrant of the cult, the result of a peculiar strain in our gene line that produces heavy, ogreish mutants. His bald head is misshapen and lumpy, one eye larger than the other, and his exposed arms are thicker than a man's torso. Gorv is gently swaying on his feet, cradling a massive industrial hammer like a child's toy. Despite his fearsome appearance, he's a big softy with us. As I watch, a tiny toddler waddles up to him, one of the pure strain spawn children, judging by the sharp little fangs peeking from her gums. Gorv grins and extends a giant calloused finger to the baby, who grabs it and giggles. The enormous aberrant chuckles quietly. I can't help but smile at the bizarre tenderness of the scene. Not far off, I notice Jathan. He must have arrived through a different route shortly after me. He's talking in low tones with a group of our militia brothers, likely coordinating security or tomorrow's tasks. He catches my eye and winks. It's still amazing to me how Jathan and I have grown so close. Before the cult, he was just another gruff co-worker. Now he's as much a brother to me as if we shared blood. Funny how a shared secret and cause can bond people. A sudden shift in the psychic tone of the room makes me stand a little straighter. The Magus is about to speak. Magus Orlan steps to the edge of the platform, spreading his arms in a welcoming gesture. Conversations die down and all eyes turn toward him. A hush falls, broken only by the distant drip of water and the soft cooing of a child. "Brothers, sisters, siblings of the blood," Orlan says, his voice smooth and carrying effortlessly. He has a way of speaking that resonates inside your head as much as through your ears. "Thank you for gathering in faith and caution." We incline our heads or salute across our chests in our cult sign as a polite acknowledgement. He continues, "The news from above grows interesting." A few chuckles ripple out. Orlan is a master of understatement. Our oppressors grow nervous. They sense, perhaps, that their time is nearing its end. The powers that be scramble to tighten their grip, but all they do is reveal their weakness. I find myself nodding. It's true. The stepped-up patrols, the random inspections, the rumors of sickness. The hive government's getting paranoid, and in doing so, making mistakes. Orlan's eyes gleam as he goes on. They speak of plagues and phantoms to explain what they do not understand. He smirks. "But we know the truth, don't we?" A low, united yes murmurs through the crowd. He smiles beatifically. "Yes, we know the truth, that their time of judgment approaches, delivered not by some abstract pestilence, but by the righteous uprising of the forgotten and the faithful, by us." A current of pride surges through us. Some can't help but cheer softly, fists clenched in determination. Orlan raises a hand for silence and continues more solemnly. "But we must be patient just a little longer. Every day our family grows. Every day we take another strand of this city's web into our grasp. When we strike, it must be decisive and total. Until then, we stay in shadow." He places a three-fingered hand over his heart in a devotional gesture. We all mirror him, palm or claw to chest. He begins to intone a benediction we've heard many times, but which always sends a thrill through me. "In the sunless body of this hive, our faithful flock has grown strong. Guided by our great Father's sacred vision, protected by his many loving arms, we have waited in holy shadow while the impure basked in their spire-top false light. Now, the void children draw near, and soon we shall be lifted into the true glory of the stars." A ripple of reverent awe passes through us. Some of the faithful are openly crying with joy. I see a middle-aged factory woman clasp her hands and whisper, "Thank the star children," tears streaking her cheeks. "We've waited so long for this prophecy to become reality." The Magus pauses, letting that sink in. His tone then shifts, becoming almost eager. "I have sensed something on the horizon. Our eternal reward draws near. I dream of it clearer with each passing night. The Star Children, our saviors from beyond the void, are close. The day of ascension is almost upon us." Excited murmurs at that. A few of my kin exchange wide-eyed grins. One gaunt steelworker actually falls to his knees, overcome. I feel my heart pounding, a mixture of excitement and nerves. Ascension so soon. Our great father feels it too, Orlan adds, with a glance toward a dark alcove at the back of the chamber. A collective shiver runs through the crowd. We all know what's in that alcove. It's deliberately kept unlit, but I fancy I see a pair of faintly luminescent eyes deep in the blackness. A low, thrumming purr resonates in my mind. The Patriarch is pleased we're all here. Instinctively, many of us avert our gaze or bow. A wave of pure love and devotion sweeps through the brood mind, emanating from that shadowed corner. It's almost like an intoxicating incense in the brain. I feel dizzy with adoration for a moment. Being in the physical presence of the Patriarch, even unseen, is intense. Magus Orlan bows his head as if listening to something, eyes unfocused. A hush holds over us. In that psychic quiet, I feel a familiar presence brush my consciousness, vastly intelligent, utterly alien, and brimming with paternal pride. My breath catches. It's him. It's the Father, addressing us in his way, not in words, but in sensations and impulses. Readiness, hunger, imminence. After a few heartbeats, Orlan raises his head. He speaks softly, but each word carries. He says the time approaches. We must be ready for his signal. Prepare all initiates, gather resources. When the veil of night is complete on the morrow's end, we may act. I swallow. Tomorrow night, Emperor's tears. It's so close now I can taste it. A suppressed thrill electrifies the chamber. Orlan's tone then lightens, a small smile on his lips. And above all, keep your heads down until then. No unnecessary risks. He casts a knowing side-eye at a couple of our more enthusiastic brethren. I suspect Jathan's earlier scuffle or other hot-headed antics prompted that. A few chuckles bubble up. He spreads his arms wide, voice rising, carrying an almost theatrical jubilation. Go now with the great Father's love. Continue his work in secret just a little longer. When next we meet like this, it shall be in triumph under new skies. With that, he brings the impromptu sermon to a close. A reverent silence is followed by a wave of whispering and excited chatter. Some embrace each other. I release a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Tomorrow night. Holy Throne, it's really happening. At this point, we usually have a little communion ritual to strengthen the brood bond. Sure enough, Kesh and a few helpers haul out a large metal urn and start ladling out a thick purplish liquid into wooden cups. The sacrament. It's mostly moonshine booze mixed with trace amounts of the Patriarch's own blood and perhaps other reagents cooked up by our biophagus. Just a sip will invigorate a cultist and reinforce our psychic harmony. One by one, members line up to take a drink. When my turn comes, I hold the cup up in salute. For the four-armed Emperor, I whisper, then knock it back. It tastes foul, coppery blood and spoiled milk with a burn of cheap alcohol, but the effect is immediate. Warmth blooms in my gut. I feel a euphoric rush in my mind as the potion's unique properties awaken every node of the brood bond. For a few moments, my consciousness expands. I feel everyone around me, a soothing blanket of collective thought. If I focus, I catch glimpses. Jathan's heart racing in anticipation, Kesh silently reciting a battle mantra. The dull, simple contentment of Gorf as he finishes his cup and licks his fangs. It's overwhelming and beautiful. I sway, closing my eyes to savor the togetherness. When I blink them open, I notice one of our pure-strain Genestealers perched on a pipe overhead, observing the communion with what might be amusement. The lithe, four-armed creature drops down silently a few meters away, sniffing the air. Some newer members still shrink back from it, an instinctive human reaction to a predatory xenoform. But we older ones greet it with fond respect. I incline my head. The pure strain's lipless mouth pulls back in something like a grin, needle teeth glinting. It hisses softly. I feel a wave of approval emanating from it. In its own way, it's happy to see us unified and preparing. Just then, a loud crash echoes from one of the side passages leading into the chamber. The heavy iron grate covering that tunnel slams to the floor with a clang. Everyone freezes. For a split second, my stomach drops. Not now. Not when we're so close. From the passage, figures emerge in a stumbling rush. Definitely not our people. The intruders carry handheld lights and I catch the gleam of metal weapons. Then I see them fully and my heart leaps into my throat. Their bodies are covered in glowing eldritch tattoos and grotesque mutations. One has tentacles writhing where his mouth should be. Another wields a chain blade and has eyes as black as a void. Warp taint. A damned chaos cult barging right into our holy meeting. For a heartbeat, neither side quite realizes what they're seeing. There are three of them initially. The leader, a gaunt man ablaze with sickly witchlight from rune tattoos all over his scarred skin. Behind him, a woman with 4 arms, 2 clearly mutant grown ending in claws, brandishing a rusty cleaver. And a heavy-set brute swinging a buzzing chain blade, his face a mass of lesions. They look as surprised as we are, as dozens of our candle-lit faces turn toward them. Then all hell breaks loose, quite literally. "Heretics!" the lead chaos cultist shrieks. The irony of him calling us heretics isn't lost on me even in the moment. His mouth tentacles writhe as he begins chanting some foul invocation, crackling warp energy coalescing around his hands. The chain blade-wielding berserker roars praises to some dark god and charges forward, straight toward a cluster of our initiates. The claw-armed mutant woman lets out a banshee scream and leaps at Gorv of all people, swinging her cleaver wildly. Reacting with instinct honed by countless drills, our sentries and armed members spring into action. Gorv meets the charging claw woman head-on with a bone-rattling crunch. Her cleaver bites into his bicep, drawing thick purple blood, but he doesn't even flinch. With a furious roar, Gorv brings his massive hammer around in a sideways sweep. It connects with her midsection with a wet thud, caving in her ribs. She wheezes, coughing blood, but unbelievably remains standing until Gorv swings again, this time an overhead slam right onto her shoulder. I hear the crack from across the room as she crumples to the floor, either dead or wishing she was. Meanwhile, the chain blade lunatic barrels toward a knot of our people. A pure strain genes stealer, the one that had been observing from the pipe, intercepts him with blinding speed. The horned Xeno pounces, catching the man by surprise. He tries to bring his whirring blade around, but the pure strain deftly sidesteps, then lashes out with one scythe-like claw. In a single stroke, it shears both of the man's arms off at the elbows. The severed limbs, still clutching the chain blade, hit the ground alongside a gush of blood. The cultist screams in shock, collapsing to his knees. The pure strain isn't one to leave a job half done. It darts forward and plunges its secondary jaws through the man's forehead. He goes limp, dead before he slumps into the grime. I draw my own weapon, a simple auto pistol I keep concealed, and scan for the third intruder, the warlock with the tentacle face. I find him in the center of the chaos, squaring off against Magus Orlan. The air between them crackles with competing energies. The Chaos Witch's hands are wreathed in sickly green flame as he hurls a bolt of warp lightning toward Orlan. Our Magus, wreathed in an aura of psychic might, raises his palm and catches the bolt mid-air, deflecting it upward. It blasts a chunk of concrete from the ceiling. The cult warlock howls in frustration and tries again, spewing some unholy syllables that make my head ache. Orlan's face hardens. With a thrust of his will, I feel the psychic pulse push out like a wave. He strikes back. Invisible force hits the mutant like a speeding train, flinging him across the chamber. The man hits the wall with bone-shattering force and drops into a heap of robes. With a final gesture, Orlan clenches his fist and the warlock's contorted body implodes, flesh and bone collapsing into a point with a nauseating squelch. All that remains is a smear of tainted blood on the wall. And just like that, the fight is over. The chamber falls silent, save for the drip of spilled fluids and the panting of a few of us catching our breath. It was a fast, savage skirmish, maybe 15 seconds from start to finish. My heart is pounding out of my chest. I quickly scan around. None of our brood seem dead, thank the Star Children. A few injuries, one neophyte brother clutching a last burn on his thigh, Kesh nursing a shallow cut on her forearm, Gorv's bleeding from that cleaver strike, but he looks more annoyed than hurt. Biophagus Zico hurries to tend to him with a hiss of disapproval at the wound. The invaders, however, are thoroughly neutralized. The tentacle-mouthed warlock is a stain on the wall. The chain-blade berserker lies in a pool of his own blood, with a neat hole bored through his skull. The clawed woman is sprawled in two pieces where Gorv split her, ichor oozing from her broken form. A collective exhale of relief goes up. I hadn't realized how tense everyone still was. A few people laugh in that giddy way one does after surviving a close call. I step over one of the bodies. Emperor, the smell of them is foul, like rotten meat mixed with ozone. Kesh is already barking orders to dispose of the mess. Two of our stout brothers grab the twitching halves of the claw woman and start dragging them toward an outlet pipe. I sidle to Kesh's side, wiping some splattered mutant blood off my pistol. Chaos cultists, I mutter, shaking my head. Wrong gods, wrong neighborhood. Kesh actually cracks a wry smile. They chose the wrong damned gods to worship, that's for sure. She spits on the tentacle corpse as some of the lads start hefting it. Filthy warp slaves. I let out a short, sharp laugh of agreement. We should send a thank you note to their dark masters for delivering fresh target practice. It's ironic. An Imperial lackey would say there's no difference between us and that chaos scum. But I know better. Those warp-addled lunatics serve only madness and decay, making the world worse wherever they go. We, on the other hand, serve a grand cosmic purpose that will ultimately renew this world, albeit in a way no unenlightened person would understand. If I had to choose again 1,000,000 times, the Star Children or the Dark Gods, I'd choose my great father's truth every single time. Chaos wants to break the universe. We want to make it whole in our own special way. Under Kesh's direction, we get to work cleaning up. We covertly dump the intruder's remains through a drainage conduit that leads to a particularly corrosive sump pit. They'll dissolve to nothing in there. Meanwhile, one of our saboteurs sets a small charge in the side tunnel they breached through. With a dull whomp, it collapses a few moments later, sealing that approach. No more unwanted guests from that direction. Within half an hour, it's like the skirmish never happened. Our wounded are bandaged, Gorv's cut already scabbed, courtesy of an injector of healing serum. The ground is scraped clean of blood, our cults accustomed to quick corpse disposal. The children, who were whisked to a back room by the creche mother when the fight started, are brought back out, some still rubbing their eyes, not fully understanding what happened. We regroup and refocus. If anything, the intrusion has only heightened our zeal. Every cultist here is all the more determined not to be derailed by anything. Magus Orlan stands again, raising his voice to address us. Brothers and sisters, this changes nothing. His tone is firm, echoing in the chamber. If anything, it is a sign. The blinded slaves of the false emperor, the deluded chaos worshippers, none can stop destiny. They fling themselves at us in their ignorance and fear, but we stand victorious. A cheer, a bit louder and more aggressive than before, rises. He's right. In the grand scheme, this was a minor hiccup. Orlan dispatches a few scouts to double-check other approach tunnels, then wraps up the meeting. Many begin filtering out in small groups, heading back to their daily lives until the appointed hour. I, Jathan, Kesh, and a few others huddle to finalize some arrangements. We're so close now. I'm set to hit the south power junction when the signal comes, Jathan says quietly. Charges are already in place on the main grid couplers. I'll be coordinating the transit depot blockades, Kesh adds. Got a few heavy lifters ready to derail the mag trains and seal the tunnels. They look to me. I take a breath. I'm with Infiltration Team Gamma for the PDF motorpool. We'll seize or disable as many of their vehicles as we can before they mobilize. It's one of the riskier assignments. The Planetary Defense Force compound is heavily guarded, but we've got inside people, like Sergeant Galvey, and I've run through the plan mentally 100 times. Kesh squeezes my shoulder. That one's crucial. Emperor's luck. Great Father's blessing, I mean. Jathan grins. Try not to crash a Lehman Russ into a wall or something, yeah? I grin back. No promises. Could be fun. We share a dark chuckle. Before heading out, the Magus leads us in one last short prayer to the Great Father. We all form a loose semicircle around him again. Adrenaline still buzzes in my veins from the fight, but I focus. Orlin lifts a clawed hand and intones, "Great Father, we thank you for preserving us this night. We go forth in your shadow to do your will. Guide us and keep us hidden until the hour of liberation." We all respond in unison, "By your blood and will, so shall it be." With that, it's time to go. We disperse in ones and twos through various hidden exits. I slip out through a different route than I came in, standard security protocol. Emerging from a junk pile into a quiet back alley, I check the timepiece on my belt. Still a couple of hours until curfew, plenty of time to meander home. The artificial night cycle of the hive has begun, indicated by the lumen globes turning a faint blue to simulate dusk. The smog level is lower right now, so as I walk an elevated causeway back to my district, I can faintly see a few twinkling stars through gaps in the upper hive's structure. Real stars, billions of kilometers away. I pause a moment to gaze at them. The very stars that our prophesied angels are coming from. Somewhere out there, across the void, our salvation, or damnation, depending on who you ask, is hurtling toward us. A cracked loudspeaker somewhere far off plays the evening curfew warning and an off-key version of the Imperial Anthem. I smirk and continue on, blending with other late shift workers heading home. By the time I reach my hab block, I'm bone tired. It's been a long day, and tomorrow promises to be infinitely longer. My body could use some rest before the chaos to come. In the hab's stairwell, old Marlowe is sitting on a step, finishing elbow stick. He blinks in surprise at seeing me home early. "Machinery malfunction," I explain with a shrug when he asks. He grunts, something between envy and relief that it wasn't worse. Up in our dorm, a few of the others are back and already asleep or pretending to be. I quietly peel off my filthy coverall and flop onto my bunk with a heavy sigh. The thin mattress and metal springs feel about as luxurious as a palace bed to my aching muscles. My mind is racing with what tomorrow will bring. Part of me still can't quite believe it's finally here. Years of planning, generations of work in secret. It all comes down to the next 24 hours. By this time tomorrow, the hive will be in flames and our cult will either stand triumphant or be nothing but smears under the heel of the Imperium. I find myself whispering a prayer again in the dark, clutching my amulet under my shirt. "Great Father, let me see the dawn of the new world we're about to create, and if I die, let it be for your glory." It's not a standard litany, just my personal plea. An enveloping warmth floods my thoughts in reply. It's not words, but I feel the Great Father's assurance, like a loving parent tucking in a child. With that comforting presence lulling me, exhaustion overtakes my anxiety. My eyes grow heavy. That night, I dream vividly. I'm standing on a great plain under a swirling purple sky. The air is alive with alien shrieks and the thunder of war. In the distance, towering spire cities crumble, and colossal shapes move among the clouds, bioships the size of mountains descending. Despite the destruction, I feel no fear. In the dream at my side stands a massive silhouette with 4 arms. The Patriarch. One of his clawed hands rests on my shoulder, and I feel pride emanating from him. Above us, countless forms rain down from the heavens like shooting stars. It's beautiful. A night sky filled with the glimmer of spores and drop pods coming to liberate us. As the first of the star children touch the ground, I laugh and feel tears of joy on my cheeks. This is what we waited for. This is ascension. I wake in my bunk with that feeling of joy still echoing through me. It's morning of day 0, the day of ascension. The hive's klaxons blare their ugly reveille. I sit up and realize I was grinning in my sleep. Across the aisle, Marlowe eyes me oddly. I can't help but smile at him. He probably thinks I've lost it. Nobody smiles before a shift. If only he knew. The next day passes in a blur of pretending everything is normal. I go through the motions at work, another shift in Factorum 17. They shuffled me to a different line today. My sabotage has the old line still under repair. Supervisor Hald is his usual charming self, but I barely register his barked threats. My hands perform the labor automatically, while my mind is on the hours ahead. Every fiber of me is coiled tight with anticipation. It's hard to act normal when your heart is about to burst, but I must. One slip now could ruin everything. So I keep my head down, suppress my grin when I overhear rumors. Apparently, a generator explosion took out power in the south, Habs this morning. Our saboteurs at work. A warehouse fire at the PDF Armory last night. Our cell covering its tracks. The official explanations range from gas leak to rebellious gangs. No one suspects an organized citywide insurrection orchestrated by the guys who tighten your bolts and clean your floors. My fingers tremble occasionally, not from fatigue, but adrenaline. Once, Hald notices me moving sluggishly and snaps, "Keep focused, worm. You want to end up in the penal mines?" I quickly mutter an apology and redouble my pace, but inside I'm envisioning ripping his tongue out. Not yet, I remind myself. Soon. All around the factory and the hive, my brethren are like coiled springs. We communicate in subtle glances and coded grunts. The plan is in motion everywhere. Saboteurs have placed explosives at key infrastructure points. Our insurgents within the defense forces have sabotaged weapons and comms. Cultists assigned to critical roles slip away one by one to arm themselves. Through the morning and into afternoon, tension rises. By late afternoon, the hive's atmosphere feels electric. The appointed hour draws near. I'm at my station, fastening yet another drill bit when it happens. A sudden jolt inside my mind, like a great bell reverberating through my skull. I gasp softly. It's time. The signal. It's as if a massive door has opened in the psychic network, linking us all, and the Great Father's will floods through. The brood mind chorus that was background hum becomes a triumphant shout without sound. Every cultist on the planet just got the message. Now, rise. One moment, I'm a hunched, obedient worker. The next, I'm something else entirely. Fury and exultation course through me. Supervisor Hald is pacing a few meters away, oblivious. The fool actually has his back to me, craning to see why some other line stopped moving. My lips peel back in a snarl. This is for every kick, every insult, every day of misery, you piece of trash. I seize the diamond-toothed drill bit in front of me. It's as good a weapon as any, and lunge across the short gap between us. Hald begins to turn, hearing me move. Too slow. I drive the drill bit with both hands straight into his neck from behind. It punches through flesh and lodges deep. He gurgles grotesquely, shock contorting his piggy face. Warm blood sprays over my hands and chest. For a frozen heartbeat, Hald staggers, clutching at the shard of metal now jutting out of his throat. I rip it back out in a crimson arc, and he collapses to the factory floor, boots drumming in reflex. A strangled whine escapes his ruined windpipe. I think he's trying to say why, but it comes out as a wet gasp. I just stand over him, teeth bared. I've imagined this so many times, and now that it's real, it's better than any fantasy. My heart is pounding, my veins singing. Years of pent-up rage and hatred release in that single act of violence. As I watch the light fade from Hald's bulging eyes, a sense of profound satisfaction blooms in me. I'm alive. I'm free. But I'm far from done. This is only the beginning. All around the manufactorum, similar scenes are unfolding. The entire factory erupts into chaos as my fellow cultists throw off their disguises and strike. A chorus of screams, shouts, and gunfire fills the air. 3 stations down, I see mild-mannered Raj, who usually fixes conveyor jams, tackle a foreman twice his size and drive a screwdriver repeatedly into the man's eyes, yelling, "For the 4-armed Emperor!" with each thrust. Across a catwalk above, Kesh leaps onto a tech priest overseer, swinging her heavy spanner. It connects with a sickening crunch against the adept's augmetic skull. The poor Mechanicus Sod's blessed circuitry doesn't save him. He topples over the railing in a shower of sparks and gore. Somewhere to my left, I hear the distinctive bark of an auto pistol. Jathan, cool as ever, has produced a hidden gun and put 2 quick rounds into the heads of the security officers by the exit before they even realized what's happening. It's beautiful. Decades of oppression and monotony explode into raw, righteous fury. We, the workers, reveal ourselves as wolves among sheep. Makeshift weapons, wrenches, rivet guns, smuggled blades, appear as if from thin air and find their targets in overseer guts and enforcer throats. A few particularly zealous brethren toss firebombs into piles of machinery for good measure, filling the place with smoke and panicked orange light. The loyalist workers, those not part of us, are so stunned and cowed they mostly just cower or run. I vault up onto a stack of crates, my hands and arms spattered with Hald's blood, and shout at the top of my lungs, "For the 4-armed Emperor! Rise up, brothers and sisters! Kill the tyrants. This world is ours now." A few non-cult workers nearby flinch at my sudden transformation from quiet drone to screaming rebel. Some drop their tools and throw themselves flat on the floor in surrender. Others simply freeze in shock, eyes wide. We cultists move among them, disarming anyone who looks like they might fight, but we're not here to slaughter our fellow downtrodden without cause. "Stay down if you want to live," I bark at a cluster of stumblers as one of our armed brothers corrals them into a corner. They huddle and nod frantically. Fine. If they don't resist, they'll live to see the new order. Maybe even join once they realize how blind they've been. Jathan comes running up, waving me down from the crate. "Time to move," he says, eyes shining with excitement. The factory is effectively ours now. The cultists here are mopping up the last resistance. A foreman hiding in a locker is dragged out and executed on the spot. A gunshot echoes. We can't bask in victory. We have our next objectives. I hop down, landing with a crunch on some fallen rivets. Already, my fellow cultists are regrouping according to plan. "Team Gamma to the motorpool?" I ask Jathan. He nods. We rally at the east gate. Galvi will be waiting. Around us, the manufactorum floor is littered with bodies of overseers and tech adepts. Fires rage where fuel or promethium was ignited. The few surviving non-cult workers kneel with their hands on their heads, guarded by armed hybrids. Some of them stare at us with a mix of terror and, oddly, hope. Perhaps the smarter ones realized this was their chance at freedom too. We'll give them a choice soon enough: join or be left behind. I spare one final glance at Supervisor Hall's corpse as I depart. His dead eyes stare at the ceiling, drill bit still clutched weakly in one hand. I almost want to retrieve it as a souvenir, but there's no time. I settle for the satisfaction etched on my memory. Our squad, about 12 of us from this factory cell, forms up and exits through a side door into the hive streets. We move with purpose, weapons drawn, still half in our worker uniforms as a disguise at distance. Jathan and I lead, weaving through alleyways toward the PDF motorpool 3 sectors over. The hive is absolute bedlam. Our uprising isn't isolated to the factorum. It's everywhere. In the distance, alarms and gunfire echo down the steel canyons of the underhive. The emergency klaxons wail a long, continuous note, signaling general unrest. We jog down a maglev track tunnel and come upon a scene of battle a block away. A squad of enforcers pinned behind an overturned cargo hauler, exchanging fire with shapes up on the hab balconies. Hard to tell in the dim light, but judging by the enthusiastic shouting of four-armed emperor from above, it's our cultists laying down fire on those enforcers. I raise my autogun and squeeze off a few shots at the exposed flank of the RB Tess squad as we pass the intersection. One officer goes down, clutching his side. The others are too embattled to even notice who shot him. We leave them to it. Our brothers up on the balconies hoot appreciatively at our passing assist. Further on, we pass a small chapel to the Emperor built into a wall niche. Its stained glass depiction of some saint is shattered. The interior is ablaze, illuminated by flickering flames. As we hurry by, I see why. A screaming imperial priest flails about, trying to smother the fire consuming his vestments. One of our acolytes, a lithe figure with a reptilian gaze, pounces on him, raking talons across the priest's throat to silence his irritating prayers. We leave them to their holy war and press on. At an arched thoroughfare leading toward the PDF barracks, we nearly run straight into an RB test roadblock. A heavy armored arbitrator with a riot shield steps out from behind a column and swings a shock maul at Jathan, who was leading. It catches Jathan in the ribs with a crackle of electricity. He grunts and goes down to one knee, stunned. I react instantly, leveling my autogun. The arbitrator is raising his shotgun toward Jathan's face. My burst catches the lawman full in the side, a trio of rounds punching through the weaker armpit joint of his carapace. He staggers with a pained grunt. Before he can recover, a dark blur hurtles in from our flank. It's Kran, one of our earlier generation hybrids. Two of his arms are more like scything claws. Kran literally tackles the arbitrator into the wall with an animal snarl and begins tearing at him. The Arbites officer's scream lasts only a moment before it's cut off in a gurgle. Kran stands, blood dripping from his claws, and gives me a thumbs up. Well, a 3 taloned up, as close as he can. I quickly help Jathan back to his feet. He's bruised but alive. Armor plating under his coveralls absorbed some of the shock. We rendezvous with more of our cult fighters a few blocks from the PDF motorpool. The streets here are littered with smoking debris. Clearly heavy fighting happened. A burned-out RB Tess Rhino is on its side in the roadway, and a handful of bodies, both cult and loyalist PDF, lie around it. The air reeks of promethium and ozone. Sergeant Galvey appears from behind an overturned barricade, waving us over urgently. Galvey, our man on the inside of the Planetary Defense Force, is a stocky fellow with a pressed uniform, now stained with sweat and soot. He's ditched his formal cap and his eyes are wild but determined. "You took your sweet time," he hisses, but I can hear relief in his tone. We quickly duck under the half-open motorpool gate. Beyond, it's a scene of controlled chaos. The motorpool is a large open yard with armored vehicles parked in neat rows. Well, they were neat. Now one is a burning hulk and another is rammed into a wall. A few bodies in PDF uniforms lie sprawled. Clearly some fighting already went down here. Galvi wipes his brow. Some loyalists tried to sabotage the vehicles when things kicked off. We stopped them, but lost a couple rides. He gestures to a scorched Chimera APC and a wrecked Sentinel Walker. There are still a good number of vehicles intact. A few Chimeras, half a dozen scout cars, even 2 Lehman Russ tanks looming at the far end like slumbering giants. Already, cult fighters, both infiltrators from within the PDF and those of us who just arrived, are clambering onto them. Galvi's handful of loyal PDF defectors, I count 5 of them, armbands hastily painted with our spiral symbol, are trying to organize. I see one of our people in the hatch of a Lehman Russ, coaxing the machine spirit to life. The engine rumbles. Yes. No time to lose, I say. They'll send reinforcements for this depot. Galvi nods. Plan is to take what we can and rendezvous at the Central Square, District 12. The cult is converging there to hit the Governor's Spire and Palace District. District 12 got it, right in the mid-hive administrative zone. Everyone splits up to their assigned rides. I'm directed to Chimera number 2, which a pair of our brood brothers are already fueling up. I hop into the driver's seat. It's a bit different from the industrial haulers I'm used to, but I've studied the schematics. Once the engine grinds awake beneath me, it feels surprisingly responsive for a hunk of metal. Within minutes, we have a ragtag motorcade formed. 2 chimeras loaded with cultists, 1 Lehman Russ tank, the other Russ's treads were damaged by sabotage, unfortunately, and a couple of scout cars. We smash through the motorpool's outer fence and roar onto the main roadway. I peer through the vision slit as I drive. The hive is in full revolt now. We pass block after block of scenes out of a nightmare, or a dream, depending on perspective. Cultist-led worker mobs storming enforcer precincts. PDF gunners on rooftops desperately firing down at swarms of rebels below. Buildings burning unchecked, sending columns of black smoke up toward the distant hive ceiling. The symphony of war, gunfire, sirens, explosions, screams, fills the air. We race toward District 12. A few desperate PDF troopers try to bar our way at a checkpoint. Our Lehman Russ's main cannon blasts their barricade to scrap, scattering soldiers like rag dolls. The heavy bolter on my Chimera, manned by a grinning Kesh who hopped on with me, chatters to life, ripping apart a squad of auxilia that foolishly stood in the street ahead. They fall like wheat before the scythe. Within half an hour, we've reached the central square of District 12, a grand plaza that once hosted the Hive's Sanguinala festivals and imperial parades. Now it's a battleground. By the time our vehicles screech into the square, it's already swarming with our cult forces. Hundreds of us. I park the Chimera with a jolt and pop the hatch. Kesh and I dismount, followed by the dozen cultists crammed in the back. What greets me is a sight I'll remember until my dying day. The square is lit by fires and the staccato flashes of las guns. At its center, a massive statue of Lord Commander Solar Macarius has been toppled from its plinth, now lying broken on the ground. I suspect a demolition charge courtesy of our saboteurs. Around the fallen statue, scores of cultists cheer and fire their weapons into the air in triumph. The bodies of what looks like an entire PDF company and hive militia lay strewn about, utterly routed. Overhead, one of the hive's giant holoscreens that typically projects the Emperor's visage now flickers with static. Someone has disabled the propaganda feed. And rising above it all, planted in the rubble of a destroyed administratum kiosk, Our cult's banner flutters, the iconic four-armed star sigil painted in bold red on white. The sight of it sends a thrill through my heart. We own this square. Magus Orlan arrives in style atop a commandeered half-track, flanked by a phalanx of hybrid bodyguards. As he climbs up onto the half-track's roof, a roar of celebration erupts from the gathered cultists. We whoop and howl, raising our weapons high. I see grimy, blood-spattered faces all around, alight with joy and fury. Workers, hybrids, turncoat soldiers, side by side in victory. It's intoxicating. Orlan raises all four of his arms, his robe sleeves now thrown back, revealing the extra limbs and his elongated hands. In the firelight, he looks almost angelic, if an angel could be birthed in a nightmare. The crowd quiets enough for him to speak, voice amplified by sheer charisma. "Behold, the dawn of ascension is here," he cries. A ragged cheer responds. "You have done well, my children. Look around. This world trembles because of you." An exultant roar. It's true. From where I stand, I see cultists at every street, leading into the square, securing checkpoints, dragging barricades. Off in the distance, something explodes skyward in a gout of red flame. Maybe a fuel depot or a downed air transport, sending a shockwave that we feel even here. The hive is being reborn in blood and fire, and we are its midwives. Orlan continues, voice fervent. This hive belongs to us now. The craven governor and his cronies cower in their spire, cut off and surrounded. The false Imperials who oppressed us lie broken at our feet. He gestures broadly at the piles of enemy dead. "Rejoice, brothers and sisters, for the day is ours." A massive cheer, the loudest yet, erupts. I find myself shouting until I'm hoarse. I have tears on my cheeks and I'm not even sure when they started. It's overwhelming. The elation of seeing years of suffering avenged, and a genuine hope that tomorrow will be different. Around the square, cultists embrace each other, or dance madly, or shout profane triumphs toward the distant spire. A pure-strain Genestealer skitters along a ruined hab wall, shrieking a victory cry that echoes chillingly. Even the children, yes, some braver cultists brought older children along, are waving little makeshift banners and laughing. I spot Gorv limping by, covered in gore and sporting new scars, but alive. He acknowledges me with a grunt and a proud lift of his hammer. I see Biophagus Zico tending to an injured neophyte on a makeshift stretcher, his medical mechatendrils whirring away. He shoots me a quick grin and thumbs up. All good here. This is it. The moment we've all been waiting for. The high of victory is indescribable. I honestly feel like my heart might burst. But it's not over. Not quite yet. As the initial frenzy of triumph simmers into a somewhat more orderly occupation of the square, I join Jathan near a makeshift barricade on the north side. He's slumped against a stack of sandbags, catching his breath. I clap him on the shoulder and he laughs between coughs. Both of us are splattered with grime and blood, but here we are, alive and atop a mountain of revolution. We don't need to speak to share the sentiment, but Jathan says it anyway, voice filled with wonder. We really did it. I sink down beside him, still gripping my rifle, adrenaline coursing. Almost, I reply with a grin. Now we just have to meet our angels. We both glance upward reflexively. Through the haze of smoke, the hive ceiling is barely visible, but beyond it, beyond the metal and pollution, are the stars. And coming from those stars, well, if Orlan and the dreams are right, they might already be here. Heh, right. The angels, Jathan says with a smirk, stretching his bruised arm. There's a mix of excitement and uncertainty in that smirk. We both know we haven't exactly seen what our so-called saviors really look like, aside from visions and murals. Jathan nudges me. When this is all over, if we get to see the new world, I'm claiming the governor's mansion for myself. Imagine me living in that penthouse, dining on real Grok's steak off gold plates. He laughs at the absurdity, his face full of hope and blood. It's good to see that hope. I chuckle. Sure, and I'll borrow the planetary governor's personal shuttle and take it for a joyride around the spire. He snorts. Deal. We actually shake on it, both of us grinning like idiots. For a brief moment, we allow ourselves that fantasy, that maybe in a few days we'll be lounging in silk beds as free men under a new sky. It's a beautiful dream, even if it might be fleeting. We sit there quietly for a minute, listening to the sounds of our compatriots fortifying the square and tending the wounded. The air tastes of victory, gunpowder, smoke, and something like freedom. Night, the real night outside the hive, must have fallen by now because the faint light filtering through the dust above has turned a deep red. Or maybe that's something else. A strange flickering glow catches my eye. I look up, trying to focus through the smog. There, above the hive's upper levels, through some breach or skylight, I see trails of fire in the sky. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. Streaking like meteors, they descend through the atmosphere, leaving smoky contrails. My breath catches. At first, some of our cultists cheer, thinking they're fireworks or burning shuttle wrecks. But I know better. We all do, deep down. The hive's air raid sirens, the ones still under loyalist control, begin to wail a new alarm. A distant thump-thump-thump of anti-aircraft cannons starts up from the upper hive defenses, sending tracers arcing upward. The hive's defensive batteries have finally noticed the incoming objects, which means they're not ours. They're here, I whisper, both in awe and dread. Jathan stands, eyes wide as he gazes at the sky. The Star Children, he breathes. All across the square, our cultists pause and look upward. The psychic presence of the Patriarch, which had been radiating triumph, now shifts to a feverish anticipation. The Magus closes his eyes, communing with it, with them. I feel an overwhelming surge in the brood mind, joy, hunger, rapture. High above, one of the streaking objects punches through a cloud bank, glowing hot. A fiery comet descending at incredible speed. It crashes somewhere beyond the hive's limits, perhaps in the ash wastes outside. With a faint seismic tremor we can feel even here. Then another hits, closer this time, lighting up the night beyond the hive spire like a giant flare. And another. Some of the smaller streaks are angling directly toward the city. One explodes against the hive's upper defense shields, causing a brilliant flash. Our cult sabotage weakened those, but not enough to stop every incoming spore pod, it seems. Still, more and more are coming. Our Magus shouts exultantly, "Rejoice, my children! The long-awaited angels are at hand. Our true gods descend." His voice carries, filled with fanatical glee. A cheer rises from many cultists, but it's a more uncertain sound than before. We've yearned for this moment, yes, but seeing it actually unfold. It's terrifying in its grandeur. I feel a pit in my stomach watching those brilliant streaks fall. A few look like they're headed uncomfortably close to the city. In fact, boom! The ground jumps. A portion of the hive, several kilometers away, erupts in a fireball, one of the larger spore ships perhaps, impacting directly. Even in the square, we stagger from the tremor. Distantly, an entire hab block's lights flicker and go out. The silence that falls on the square now is different, a nervous, anticipatory hush. Our cult's victory cries slowly transform into murmured prayers and gasps as we witness the full scale of what's descending. Through gaps between the Gothic towers around us, we see them, shapes in the sky, blotting out the stars. Great living ships, like floating leviathans, descending through the atmosphere amidst storms of spores and drop organisms. The hive's ground-to-orbit guns, the ones that haven't been sabotaged, fire lances of energy upward, but there are just so many targets. One by one, we see those enormous bioships disgorging swarms of objects, mycetic spore pods raining down like a grotesque meteor shower. They pepper the hive, some smash into the upper spire, blowing out whole sections of the luxurious palaces above. Others hit further out in the ash wastes. One large pod slams directly into an already ruined area of the mid-hive, not far from here, sending a mushroom cloud of debris up into the air. We hold our ground in the square. Where can we even go? Some cultists kneel in prayer, arms raised to the sky. Others tighten their grips on weapons, realizing another battle is now upon us. A piercing psychic scream suddenly rips through my skull. I stagger, crying out along with many others. It's the Patriarch's doing, amplified by the presence of the hive mind overhead. The meaning hits us all simultaneously. Fight. Fight for the Star Children. This world is theirs now, and ours to deliver. Our great father's final command. We rally, ready to do just that. The brood mind links us in a battle fervor like none before. In any other scenario, after hours of combat, we'd be exhausted. But now we feel no fatigue, only fanatic adrenaline. If the Star Children require more blood, we'll give it gladly. From the breach where that spore impacted near the square, movement catches my eye. Skittering, chittering shapes pouring through the rubble and smoke. They advance unbelievably fast, and within moments I see them clearly under the flickering hive lumens. Tyranids. Sure, we called them Star Children, angels, what have you. But seeing them in the flesh is another matter entirely. These are not our hybrid kin who've walked among us. These are the pure Xenos nightmares from beyond. Chitinous armor, slavering maws, razor claws, some the size of hounds, gaunts, my mind supplies from studied intel, galloping on 4 hind limbs with 2 clawed forelimbs and strange biomechanical guns grafted to them. Others are larger, humanoid shapes with scythe arms and talons the length of swords. Warriors. There are countless smaller scuttling things too, swarms of chitin and teeth skittering ahead like oversized bugs. Rippers, I realize. "Hold positions," Kesh yells. Our cult fighters, to their credit, don't break. If anything, many shout hosannas, convinced these are our saviors at last. We expected them. We wanted them here. Still, I instinctively raise my autogun just in case. Training kicks in. We had planned that when the Tyranids arrived, we would work with them to wipe any remaining loyalists, then welcome absorption into the hive fleet's glory. But there's that old human instinct deep inside, the one that balks at a horde of fanged aliens rushing at you. My hands tremble on the grip. The first wave of gaunts crashes into the square perimeter. They come by the dozens, screeching and firing living weapons that spit flesh-borer beetles. A fusillade of their projectiles hits the position to my left, shredding 2 cultists who were caught out of cover. They die with bewildered looks, perhaps not expecting their gods to gun them down. "Don't return fire," someone calls. "They'll recognize us as kin." Indeed, many of us hesitate. These are our angels, aren't they? There's confusion. Jathan is beside me, bloodied but steady. "Why are they shooting at us?" he mutters, ducking as a flesh-borer burrows into the sandbag in front of us, spewing dirt. "Maybe. They can't tell who we are," I reply, heart pounding. "Magus will link them, surely." Magus Orlin is standing atop the half-track, still, eyes closed, clearly concentrating. He's doubtless sending out a psychic all clear to the Tyranids. a signal that we are brood affiliates. Some of the onrushing gaunts do slow down, sniffing oddly as if confused. A few even hold fire, skittering to a halt not far from the barricades, heads tilted. I see one warrior at the breach chitter and hiss, perhaps receiving Orlan's telepathic message. My racing heart begins to calm. It's working. They know us as friends. Suddenly, a terrible, guttural snarl cuts through the air. From behind the first wave, a hulking monstrosity heaves itself into view. A tyrannid carnifex, one of the larger beasts, all muscle, armor, and fury. It barrels forward, smashing aside debris and smaller tyrannids alike as if driven by sheer berserk rage. On top of the half-track, Orlan's eyes snap open as he senses something. His face contorts with shock. I feel it too, a sudden severing in the brood mind, like losing a signal. The Patriarch's presence, which had been a beacon of encouragement, wavers and then, blink, vanishes. A psychic scream of agony slices through us all. I reel, a splitting pain between my temples. The Great Father. Something's happened to him. I cast my gaze toward the eastern edge of the square, where our patriarch was lurking in the shadows earlier. What I see makes my blood run cold. The patriarch, a massive, venerable Genestealer, has revealed himself, climbing atop the rubble of the toppled statue of Macarius. He is engaged in ferocious combat with the Carnifex. The Patriarch's 4 clawed arms are latched onto the Carnifex's head, and he's biting savagely at its eye. The Carnifex, in turn, has one of its huge crushing claws impaled through the Patriarch's abdomen. I watch in horror as the Carnifex rears back and then brings its claw down, slamming the Patriarch to the ground. Our Great Father, who seemed invincible to us, roars in pain and fury. He slashes, ripping a chunk of flesh from the Carnifex's face, but the giant beast doesn't even flinch. It opens its maw and unleashes a point-blank blast of bioplasma. The searing bolt engulfs the Patriarch. When the flash clears, I see our mighty progenitor collapse, half his torso melted. He isn't moving. A collective psychic wail rips through every cultist present, a keening, mournful shock. Many of us scream aloud, clutching our heads. I taste blood. I think I bit my tongue. The Patriarch's death, or near death, sends a jolt of despair through the brood mind. The Carnifex bellows in triumph and tosses aside the smoldering limb it lost, seemingly unbothered. Before it can finish the Patriarch off, though, boom! A tremendous explosion staggers the Carnifex. Our Leman Russ has fired on it from close range. The shell blasts a crater in the Carnifex's side, making it howl and stumble. Immediately, half a dozen cultists, the more monstrous hybrids among us, rush forward, firing guns and swinging blades at the distracted Carnifex. It becomes a frantic dogpile, hybrids clinging to the Carnifex's legs, stabbing with mining drills, the Carnifex stomping and chomping in rage. But I can't watch that fight. The square has descended into pandemonium. The temporary psychic feedback from the Patriarch's fall and Orlan's telepathic shock seems to have enraged or confused the Tyrannids. The Gaunts resume their onslaught with renewed ferocity, no longer hesitating. Perhaps losing the Patriarch's guiding signal made us appear as just more meat to them. Our cultists, in their disarray and grief, get cut down in droves by the Xeno swarm now flooding into the square. Some of us snap out of it and return fire or fight back, but others are so mentally stunned they're slow to react, and die for it. Not a single cultist retreats, however. Even facing this unimaginable betrayal or misunderstanding, none of us runs. Through the broodlink, even in disarray, one thing is clear. We always meant to give our lives for this. If being devoured by the Star Children is how it ends, so be it. Many among us actually embrace it as literal ascension. Open fire! Defend yourselves! Kesh screams nearby, emptying her auto pistol into an onrushing gaunt that leaps over a barricade. The creature takes the hits, ichor spraying, but still manages to pounce onto one of our compatriots, tearing his throat out before it expires. Kesh is tackled by another two gaunts immediately after. She disappears under their slashing claws with a gurgled shout. Jathan is at my side behind the sandbags, firing controlled bursts at a warrior that is bounding our way. The creature screeches as we pepper it, finally dropping after a lucky headshot from Jathan. But dozens more forms skulk beyond in the smoke. I hear Magus Orlan's voice in my head. Hold fast, children. The hive mind knows us. Prove your devotion. It's unclear if he really believes that or is just trying to keep us fighting. Either way, we obey. Our heavy stubbers and autocannons. We set up a few from captured PDF weapons, hammer at the incoming waves. A squad of cultists to my right, armed with mining lasers, manages to scythe down a cluster of gaunts. For a moment, it looks like maybe we can hold this perimeter. Then a new horror leaps down into our midst. One of our pure-strain Genestealers, ironically one of the very angels we revered, drops from a rooftop and lands on the icon bearer, carrying our banner. With an ear-splitting hiss, it drives its claws through the surprised icon ward's back, impaling him. I stare in shock. That pure strain is one of ours. But its eyes are glazed, feral, its mind clearly subsumed fully into the invading hive fleet's control, now that the Patriarch is gone. With savage efficiency, it rips our beloved banner-bearer limb from limb, the four-armed cult flag tumbling from his hands into a puddle of blood. If that isn't an omen, I don't know what is. The cult icon falling demoralizes many. Some cry out in despair or anger, but others roar in defiance. A furious brother empties a clip into that rogue pure strain, actually managing to put it down. He had armor-piercing rounds for just such a betrayal scenario. Guess he was one of those contingency planners. I duck as a spray of flesh-borer beetles sails overhead. One of them grazes my ear. It feels like a red-hot poker jammed through it. I snarl through the pain and keep firing at anything non-human in front of me. Around me, the cult is fighting tooth and nail, literally in some cases. A malformed hybrid to my left tackles a gaunt and bites clean through its neck, even as another gaunt mounts his back and chews his ear off. A chaos of bodies, human and xeno, thrashes across the square in brutal melee. I notice something. Not a single cultist attempts to flee, even those realizing the grim truth that the Tyranids may not be here to save us in the way we imagined, stand their ground. Some are weeping even as they shoot or stab, either from religious ecstasy or despair or both. I hear one of my brothers hollering through tears, "Take me! Devour me! I am yours!" as he's swarmed by rippers that begin literally eating him alive. He dies with a rapturous smile, believe it or not. The psychic field of the Tyranid hive mind grows stronger by the second as more creatures flood in. It's oppressive, like being underwater in a storm. I feel our brood mind, whatever remains of it, without the Patriarch, being drowned out by a vast alien song of hunger. Some cultists clap hands over their ears as if that could shut it out, only to be cut down by seething claws a moment later. A piercing shriek draws my attention skyward. I see shapes flitting between the hive towers. Winged Tyranid organisms, gargoyles, swoop down and snatch up a pair of cultists who are manning a stubber on a balcony. They carry them screaming into the darkness. Emperor knows what for. Probably to drop them from great height or feed them to spawnlings somewhere. The aerial assault just adds to the pandemonium. In the center of the square, near the broken statue plinth, Magus Orlan is still alive, surrounded by a knot of loyal hybrids. I see him unleash a blast of bio-lightning from his hands, frying a lunging warrior mid-pounce. He's screaming something, perhaps a last prayer or a curse at the hive mind itself. The remaining pure strain Genestealers of our cult are arrayed near him, half of them seemingly confused, torn between brood telepathic signals, and others outright feral and attacking anything that moves. One of our loyal pure strains pins a disloyal one, and they tear into each other like wild animals in a blur of claws. So much for brotherhood. Near the fountain ruins, that carnifex still rages. It's missing an arm and is covered in oozing wounds. Our cult did not die easy. A pile of aberrant and hybrid corpses lies around it, but it's still very much alive and smashing a wrecked chimera repeatedly with its remaining claw just for fun. I suspect our poor patriarch is somewhere in that mess, either dead or in the throes of it. Amidst the insanity, I find myself back-to-back with Jathan behind the half-toppled sandbag wall we initially occupied. We've both somehow survived to this point miraculously. My ammo is running low. Jathan is bleeding from a gash across his forehead, but his eyes are fierce. We gun down a pair of gaunts that scuttle over a fallen Prometheum tank, a momentary victory. He laughs, a cracked, wild laugh. "What a day, eh?" he manages, blood running into one eye. I bark out a crazed agreement. It's absurd, all of it. We fight and kill and die, and for what? To feed a hungering void, and ironically, it's the happiest I've ever been. We did live free, even if only for a few hours. A sharp pain lances through my thigh. I cry out and collapse to one knee, looking down. A barbed tyrannid spike, organic like a big thorn, has embedded itself in my upper leg, probably launched from some creature's gun. Blood wells around it. My leg buckles. Jathan grabs me under the arm, hauling me back behind cover as more spikes thud into the sandbags. "Got you, brother," he grunts. He drags me a meter to the side, propping me against the rubble of a broken Auspex tower. I grit my teeth. The wound is bad. I won't be walking out of here. A quick glance around. The square is effectively lost. Only a few pockets of cultists still resist in gradually shrinking circles of bodies. I see Kesh's body, or half of it, near the ruined barricade, a Hormagaunt gnawing on her severed arm like a drumstick. Gorv is down too, or at least I think that's him. Hard to tell with the state of the giant smashed corpse missing a head. Magoose Orlan and a handful of survivors are falling back toward the center, circling near the fountain. They know it's the endgame. Even Orlan's powers won't hold much longer under a tide of chitin. Jathan kneels beside me, weapon ready, breathing ragged. My leg is numb now, maybe shock, maybe tyrannid venom. Hard to say. He presses a low stick stub into my free hand and lights it with a match from his pocket. Emperor knows why he chooses now to share a smoke, but I chuckle and accept it, taking a shaky drag. The smooth burn of tobacco mixed with recycled corpse fat. Yeah, even low here has corpse ingredients, fills my lungs, strangely calming. Jathan lights one for himself, too. We sit there, him crouched, and I propped against a slab, like we're just taking a break after a long shift, rather than awaiting death. Around us, the melee continues, but it oddly feels distant for a moment. "That went well," Jathan jokes between puffs, nodding at the carnage. Blood runs down his face, but he grins anyway. I nearly choke on the Elaho smoke, laughing. "About as well as expected," I reply wryly. He coughs a bit, then says quietly, "Worth it, though." I nod. Worth it. And I mean it. Despite everything, the slaughter, the shattered dreams, the imminent consumption by monsters, I'd do it all again, because for a brief moment we were free. We mattered. Better to live one day as a lion, or a four-armed hybrid lion, I guess, than a lifetime as a drudge, right? Our moment of peace is interrupted by Magus Orlin suddenly appearing near us. He's limping, one arm hanging mangled at his side, robe in tatters. The protective escort he had is gone. I see two of his loyal hybrids lying dead a few meters back. Orlin half staggers, half falls into cover with us. His once serene face is a mask of anguish, and not just physical. The Great Father's gone, he croaks, one milky eye weeping blood. His gaze is distant. I think he might be psychically aware of the Patriarch's final moments, perhaps even feeling them. Maybe that's why the broodmind collapsed so suddenly. Our Patriarch died. Jathan and I exchange a knowing, sorrowful look. It's a heavy loss. The Magus swallows, composing himself with visible effort. He looks at us, his remaining good eye suddenly clear and full of a sad pride. "We did what we were meant to do," he says hoarsely. "We delivered this world to them. Our part is done." He rests his one good hand on both our shoulders, a gesture of genuine affection. He was proud of us. I feel it. Tears unexpectedly prick my eyes. Hearing that our great father felt pride at our actions, it's all I could ask for, really. I nod, biting back a sob. Jathan bows his head, whispering a prayer of thanks under his breath. A thunderous crash jolts us. The Lehman Russ has finally been toppled and exploded, perhaps from the carnifex or sheer damage. That likely took the last of the heavy resistance with it. The square is nearly silent now, aside from animalistic snarls and the crackle of fires. Orlan, Jathan, and I are among the last still conscious in this area, and the Tyranids have noticed. From between broken slabs, a lithe Tyranid warrior slinks toward us, ichor dripping from wounds across its carapace. It's one of the ones we shot earlier. Half its face is missing, but it clearly still has fight in it. Behind it come a pair of smaller gaunts, chittering eagerly. Jathan shakily rises, putting himself between the Xenos and the Magus. He's got one magazine left. He lifts his auto pistol and fires steadily. Bang, bang, bang. The gaunts screech as rounds perforate them. One goes down, the other leaps forward despite a shattered leg, dragging itself with claws. Jathan empties the rest of the clip into its head, finally stilling it. But the larger warrior isn't even fazed. It steps over its minions' corpses, raising a scythe arm. I try to lift my own pistol. Empty. Damn. I reach around for anything. My hand falls on a fallen cultist's weapon next to me, but before I can grab it, the Tyranid warrior lunges. Jathan meets it bravely, swinging his rifle like a club. The creature backhands him with a talon, sending him sprawling into rubble. It looms over him, raising a bone sword to impale him. Suddenly, the warrior stiffens, jerking oddly. Its glowing eyes dim slightly. I see Magus Orlan behind it, his remaining hand outstretched, eyes solid black. He's exerting the last of his psychic strength to freeze the beast in place. "Brother, do it, now," Orlan hisses through clenched teeth, veins bulging on his bald head. Jathan, dazed on the ground, blinks and then nods. With a snarl, he draws a hidden boot knife and lunges upward, plunging it into the underside of the warrior's throat with both hands. The creature gargles, black ichor pouring out, and staggers back, swiping feebly. Jathan roars and stabs again and again, frenzy and anguish fueling each strike. The Tyranid warrior collapses to its knees after the 6th or 7th blow, finally keeling over, dead or at least immobilized. Magus Orlan gasps and falls back, completely spent by the psychic effort. Jathan stands over the slain Xeno, chest heaving. He glances back at us with a wild grin like, "We did it!" But the grin fades fast. Behind him, emerging from swirling smoke, comes an even larger silhouette, hulking, quadpedal, armored like a tank. The Carnifex. It's missing an eye, and half its chitin plates are cracked or blown off, but it's alive. And it's looking for more things to kill. Jathan sees my horrified gaze over his shoulder and half turns. "Oh, throne," is all he manages before a massive scything claw comes out of the darkness, scything clean through his torso from shoulder to hip. For a heartbeat, Jathan stands there, a diagonal red line suddenly bisecting him. He meets my eyes, and I'll be damned. He winks at me with a bloody smirk. Then his top half sloughs off his bottom half, and he hits the ground in two pieces. "Jathan!" I scream, pushing myself upright despite the agony ripping through my pierced leg. The Carnifex barges fully into view, snorting and stamping, its one good eye locking onto me and Orlan, the last two morsels. Magus Orlan, kneeling beside me now, looks up at the behemoth. I see no fear in his face anymore, just resignation and, oddly, a touch of satisfaction. "The Star Children have come," he whispers, maybe to me, maybe to himself. The Carnifex paws the ground, ichor drooling from its fanged maw. This is it. I find myself surprisingly calm. The pain in my leg is distant. The adrenaline is gone, replaced by a serene weariness. I slip my hand into my shirt and clutch my amulet one last time. The metal is warm against my skin, or maybe my skin's just cold now. Orlan places his good hand on my shoulder, steadying himself as he rises to face the monster. I struggle up alongside him, standing on one good leg. No point cowering. Let's meet our fates head on. The Carnifex charges with a bellow, shaking the ground with each step. Orlan musters a final flicker of power. A weak bolt of lightning dances from his fingertips, striking the creature's snout. It barely notices, merely shaking its head like shooing off a fly. In two bounds, it's upon us. It swipes. Magus Orlan actually steps in front of me, taking the brunt. A huge claw meant for me cleaves into Orlan's torso instead. He coughs wetly, impaled. The Carnifex lifts him like a skewered meat chunk, inspecting him curiously. Orlan, unbelievably, is still alive for a few seconds. He meets my eyes over the Carnifex's raised claw, and I see him mouth something. It might be run, or live, or witness. Not sure. Then the Carnifex squeezes, and Orlan is torn into two bloody halves. Our wise Magus, gone like that. The Carnifex then turns its attention to me. I'm the only one left in immediate sight. Behind it, in my periphery, I see swarms of lesser tyrannids, feasting on corpses or dragging bodies into piles. The cult resistance in the square is effectively over. It's just cleanup for them now. The giant Xeno snorts, hot, foul-smelling air washing over me. I'm slumped against a slab, barely standing. My pistol is gone, my knife useless against this thing. I have nothing, really, except a burning pride that refuses to bow. I spit a glob of blood and saliva at its eye, a feeble gesture but satisfying. "Come on then," I croak at it. "Ascend this, you ugly fracker." It roars in response, maybe insulted. I'll pretend it was. With almost casual cruelty, it raises one massive foot and kicks me. The impact is like being hit by a cargo train. I'm launched off the ground and sent flying. I dimly feel bones snap. My vision explodes in pain. When I come to, I'm on my back, staring at what remains of the hive's night sky through a gash in the ceiling superstructure. Everything hurts in that distant way that suggests I'm probably mortally wounded. I can't move my left arm at all. Possibly my spine is broken. I'm not sure. I can't feel my legs. I do feel something warm flowing under me, likely a pool of my own blood. The metallic tang of it fills my nose. Oddly, the Conifex seems to have left me here, maybe assuming I'm finished. I can hear it rampaging off somewhere to the side, smashing and roaring at other survivors, maybe. For the moment, I'm left alone. All around me, the square is a hellscape. Fires burn, casting flickering shadows. The towering statue of Macharius lies broken not far off, ironically almost protecting me from debris. Swarms of rippers carpet the ground, devouring the fallen. I see them surging over the body of dear Jathan, reducing what was my friend into so much mulch. I should be horrified, but I just feel numb. I think back to earlier today, how optimistic we were, how naive. Yet, I don't truly regret it. We took our shot at the stars. It just so happens the stars had teeth. The psychic chorus of the hive fleet now drowns everything. It should terrify me. It's an ocean of hunger lapping at my very soul. But maybe because I'm so near death, I find it almost soothing. A great sleepy void calling me to join the greater whole. I wonder briefly if other cults on other worlds ever fared differently. Did any actually live to see a paradise, or were they all like us, stepping stones for a devouring swarm? Perhaps it doesn't matter. We believed, and in belief there was purpose. My eyelids grow heavy. Blood loss, probably. The screams and snarls grow muted. The world darkens at the edges. In my fading mind, I swear I hear a song, our song, rising softly amidst the carnage. Maybe it's the voices of my surviving kin, or maybe it's just a comforting hallucination. But I hear it clearly, as if the whole cult is singing to me from beyond. By blood and by claw we rise from below, our chains cast off by the faith we bestow. The four-armed emperor guides us in night. We await the star children, our saviors of light. No tyrant, no false god can keep us in chains. We carry his mark in our blood, in our veins. In shadow we labor, preparing the way. Ascension is coming. O glorious day. The voices, real or imagined, are gentle now, almost like a lullaby. It is a lullaby, the lullaby we used to hum to our cult's children as they drifted to sleep in their hidden cribs. I feel tears on my face, but I'm smiling. In the end, perhaps Ascension was never about surviving or winning. Perhaps it was about meaning, that we did all this for something greater than ourselves. And in that sense, we succeeded. I let the comforting darkness and the final refrain of our hymn carry me away. And so ends my day. Just an ordinary day in the life of a Genestealer Cultist. From the drudgery of dawn to the horror of dusk, it was one hell of a journey. Would I do it all again? In a heartbeat. Because even in our ending, we truly lived. We lived free from the shackles of a cruel world, bound instead by love to something greater. And that, dear friend, is a fate mysterious and beautiful enough for me.